Hey there, it's Alison here, and I'm getting ready to do another layout for Clear the Desk, and also playing along with the challenges over on the Paper Issues Facebook page. One of my remaining papers is this one. And I know I've said that I wasn't going to use it because the colors don't really match, but I think I'm going to change my mind, and here's why. I think I can mute this and turn it into something that I could use. One of the challenges for Paper Issues this month is to get messy and to focus on paint. So I thought I want to do a layout about the whole grad class. I could not find a picture of the whole class seated. I looked through my husband's pictures, he didn't have anything. So I'm just going to use these ones. And it's going to go next to this one, which is quite dark, which is why I thought I could bring in this green. I'm going to see how it works. It might fail horribly, but I thought actually if I just put some white gesso over it and muted that green down and then added some pink paint on top, that could maybe work. So let's give it a try, see what happens, and if it goes horribly wrong, we'll just find another piece of paper. And fair warning, I haven't really gotten messy with paint in a long time, so my paints could be all bad. Who knows? I gotta find a brush. Because I want to put the gesso all over my paper, I'm going to use this foam brush. This is where we find out if it's gone all thick or not. And I'm not going to worry about it being super neat and tidy. I think the whole point of the challenge is to get messy, and I think I will get a better look if I'm not careful. I don't want to completely hide the underneath paper. I want you to be able to see it. So I'm actually going to get a baby wipe and maybe pull up some of that gesso just so we can, let's see, I'm going to put the photos sort of here. I'm going to clean up this, let this dry, and then add some paint. Alright, I took my heat gun to it and it's mostly dry. And now I have this that I had mixed up before, and it's just pink paint and maybe some water and gesso or something. Can't even remember. So let's see. I really want to have some layers, so it's not, yeah, this is just the first layer. Okay, I'm going to dry that. I'm going to use my heat gun. Just try not to spread these around too much. If you hold your heat gun actually quite a bit above the paper, it won't like spread out your drops. So you can tell my paper's starting to warp quite a bit. Once it gets into the page protector, that won't be an issue. But for now, we'll just let it do its thing. Okay, so my next step is I want to put on a bit of gold, and I want to put on some stars. So the paint is not 100% dry, so it might bubble up through the stencil, but right now, oh, I've got some washi tape here I can tape this down with. Actually, I will put it right to the top. Yeah, see, I got pink paint. I'm not that concerned about it. And let's go right to the corner. I'm going to use some gold gelato, actually. Kind of gross and dirty, so let's get that cleaned first. Okay. Now, do I want to use a sponge? Yeah, I think I do. Let's get one out. So I'm going to put some on my mat here. It's pretty dry. I have not been using my mixed media things for a long time. So you can see it's drying out. And I don't want all those hard bits coming up in my design. All right, let's give this a try. See what happens. I don't think I'm going to get all that much. Nope. Okay. Plan B. I don't think this is going to work, guys. I think my gelato is too dry. Try the wet wipe. I think I've just bled all the way underneath, so I'm just going to pull this up and take a look. I have a feeling this is doing things I don't yet. No, that's just disgusting. Okay. Plan B, no stars, or at least no gelato. We'll try something different for the stars, but that's got to come off. So back in a minute. Okay, this is why I don't do mixed media anymore, because I can't control it. Yeah, okay, but I think my next step is going to be some splotches of black. And for the gold, I will just add some gold mist at the end, which is a little bit boring, but I think that's okay. All right. Now to dry that. Wet, so I'm not going to work on it until it's 100% dry, but I decided to let it drip, and I'm not I don't know why, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, let's see what happens if we do this, and well, we'll just have to wait and see how the rest of it comes together. But it does give me some options, because I don't necessarily have to have it up that way. I could have it like that or like that. So we'll see. So getting this everywhere. I'm going to put this aside to dry completely and work on the rest of it. If I look back at the layout that I'm going to be pairing this with, there's a lot of pink, a little bit of gold, so that's good. I can bring the gold into the other side, but there's a whole lot of pink. There's a little bit of this sort of, well, it's not really turquoise. I don't really know what to call that. Sea blue, I suppose. So I think what I'm going to be best doing is working with the photos and creating a mat with some bits, and then I can just put it right on top of the base when it's dry. Okay, so rather than continue to try and talk and work at the same time, because eventually I gave up and I stopped talking, I just decided to stick it on fast forward and do a voiceover, so sorry. Yeah, so my base layer is off drying, and I'm trying to work on all the sort of layers behind the photograph. So I'm pulling in all the scraps that I have left in my kit, trying to figure out what I want. And I've decided to go with the photos sort of stacked but offset. And I like how that the top one is the whole row that my daughter's in, and then the bottom one is sort of zoomed in on where my daughter's standing. So if you look at it from top to bottom, it sort of zooms in, if you understand what I'm trying to say there. And then that piece of paper behind the photograph was one that I had intended to use actually on the introductory page, and I completely forgot about it. So I figure it can come in here, and I like the sort of sunset color scheme rather than the hot air balloons. And pulling in all the other ones, I was looking for contrast, and the back side of those pink glasses was a black and white polka dot, and it just wasn't giving me enough contrast between that really soft watercolor paper and then the rest of the layout. So the pink glasses it is. And then that floral paper that is from Little by Little, I really liked that one pink flower, but it didn't seem to matter where I arranged it. I could not get that pink flower to show. So I abandoned that in favor of the teal strip with the little white boxes. And I actually really like the contrast between the dark pink and that dark teal better than bringing in that really dark floral paper. And I've decided to run it vertically. And so now I'm just looking for what other pieces I can add. And I've cut out a couple of the frames from the Dear Lizzie paper. And this little card that I've just put down has the word us, which I quite like, as it refers to my daughter and her classmates. And then the dot pattern on it really mimics the pattern paper on the layout opposite. So I think that that's a good correlation. But I'm just looking for some more paper that I can maybe layer it behind. So I'm going through, I had 2 6x6 paper pads in my kit. One is an Amy Tangerine and one is from Pink Paisley. So I pull out that, I love that paper, the Amy Tangerine paper there, the sort of dark turquoise with the, what are those called? Paisley pattern on them. And I think maybe I can cut it into 2 6-inch strips and replace the teal strip with that. It's a thought. It doesn't actually come about, but it's a thought. And so now I realize I need to bring in that background paper because I'm sort of unable to go any further without the background in place. So I bring it in and I sort of dab off the really blobs of ink that are still wet and then get going. And there are still some wet spots, but I'm just going to keep moving and get this layout done. And I twist it around to see if I like it any better with the drips in other directions, and I really don't. So I just get that one vertical strip down. And yes, I realize I've covered up basically all the ink. Yeah, it is what it is. And I really considered trying to find a different position for that big vertical strip, but in the end, I really wanted it right there, and I just decided to let the ink go. And then you notice I put the photo block down a little bit too high, so I had to pull that up and bring it back down again. I was hoping that if I had it higher, then I could show more of the ink down at the bottom, but I didn't like the composition of it on the page up higher. I liked it sort of more central. So now I'm just looking for extra bits that I can add, and I cut out 3 of the little squares from that pink paisley cut apart. I've chopped that 3x4 card with all the circles on it in half, so I can have a bit at the top, a bit at the bottom. And I think that I can put a couple of these little cut aparts inside the frame, but they will need to be backed. And I know I have that strip of dark pink over on the right, and in my head I'm like, yeah, I can probably back it with that. And I'm just trying to figure out if I want the gray frame at the top or the blue frame. And eventually I decide I like the contrast of the gray against the teal better than the sameness of the green against the teal. So, but below that block, because the 2 papers and the photos aren't completely square on either mat, there's this awkward space at the bottom, and I was trying to find things to go underneath it from the scraps that I had pulled out, and I just didn't really have anything that was big enough. So I went into my scrap drawer and I pulled out this paper that I've used on another layout to do with her grad. I just can't remember where it is right now. So I figure it's pulling in something new to the kit, but it's not something new to my stories about her. So I think it's okay. And the colors work really well. And yeah, it means I've covered up practically all the ink and paint. Oh, well. But I do like the way it sort of finishes off the bottom there. I don't have those awkward corners. And I have this one branding strip, and it's actually from the bottom of the paper that is on the layout that's going to go next to this one with all the circles on it. And I thought about putting it horizontally along the bottom, but I quite like it vertically. And of course, everything else is stuck down, so I have to sort of really wiggle it in there, but eventually I get it in there. It's kind of like working with washi tape once you've stuck everything down and you're trying to work it in, but it's sticky and it's just sticking to everything. Yeah, that's what I was experiencing. So now I have backed those 2 little cards with the hot pink, and I really like the frame that it gives. And I've put them on pop dots so that they can go inside those 2 Dear Lizzie frames. And I've put that glasses. Now that is from the card that I used on my layout about to my husband and my daughter that was called Wicked Smart. And it's the same pattern that's in behind the photos. So I like that I can repeat that. So I'm getting my title in, and I decide to call it Row by Row. And of course, in my haste to pull the letter off, I rip the W. So I've had to sort of stick them together. Thankfully they're foam, so they're a little bit forgiving, and I don't think you can really tell, even in the close-ups, that that first W is ripped. At least I hope not. And now it's just a matter of getting it sort of finished. Now it took me a long time to get to this point, but now that I'm there and the major elements are in place and my title's there and everything, it sort of starts to come together quite quickly. And even though I have a lot of visual texture on the page, there's not a lot of different sensual textures, if you want to call it that. So I'm bringing in some chipboard, and I go through my waterfall pack, and I just pull out all the different sayings that I like that are in colors that work. And I'm going to see where I can put them on the layout. But I'm just putting them to one side right now while I find different things. And I have a book that has a whole lot of washi strips in it. So I pull that one out. I think, if I remember correctly, it says Smile, just repeated across the top. But the yellow helps bring out the yellow in the pattern paper behind the photo. And it's also school colors, so that works. And then there was this gold strip. I cannot remember what it says. Little moments or precious moments or these moments or something like that. And I cut it into 3 pieces. I ended up only putting the 2 pieces on the layout because I really only have the 2 areas of embellishment, so that kind of makes sense. And now it's a matter of finding places for the chipboard pieces that I pulled out. Oh, I also pulled out 2 puffy stickers that were from a Maggie Holmes, Chasing Dreams, I think that's her collection. And one is the camera at the top left, and then there's a like an award flag down at the bottom. And it said my favorite on it, and I was going to leave it, but then when I was looking for a place to put that teal heart, I decided to put it over top of the words my favorite, because I didn't really want this to be about her being my favorite, because she's not, like, you know, I don't have favorites, right? All 3 daughters, love them all the same. Anyways, there we go, finished layout, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I 100% love this, and the background, it's a lot sort of busier than I would normally make, but I'm going to live with it and see how I like it in a few days. Okay guys, thanks so much. Bye.